So I moved to the UK and everything was new for me. I'm a guy who comes from South America going into Europe, and so I just went like partying most days of the week. However, in my heart, I always had something about Christ. Now and again, something will pop up because my friend back home, Miguel, talked to me about Christ. One day I came from a party, I went to sleep, and I had this really vivid dream with Christ. And I'm dreaming like I'm like in an open garden, and I felt like my body just being lifted up. I literally see like the map of the UK and the map of Europe, and I keep going up to the point and I actually see the whole globe underneath me. I hear this voice in my head in the dream saying to me, "You know the truth and you don't follow me." And I look up, and when I look up, it was Christ with his hands trying to reach me.
Well, Tony, it's an honor to get to record your testimony. What is your testimony of Jesus? What has Jesus done in your life?
So I want to go back to very early age when I was about 5 years old. So when I moved to Venezuela when I was about 5 years old, my mom just basically started living with my dad because my dad was there for a while before my mom actually goes there. My dad was a very violent man, so we will have all these issues at home. Then he perhaps will punch her and myself, my brother. And it was a bit difficult, to deal with that when you are that young age. So when he will come from work, we will probably panic because we wouldn't know in which mood he was, if he drank or not, because he was an alcoholic as well. And so it was difficult to deal. I remember at that age, my mom used to go to church because she was like a Catholic, but she didn't go to church like every Sunday, or she didn't pray on the table, nothing like that. Basically, we will go now and again on a Sunday to church, and I remember very well that in Easter week, we will see Jesus of Nazareth with, can't remember the name of the actor, Robert Powell. And normally that movie lasts 6 hours. So in Venezuela, what they do, they put like blocks of 2 hours for over 3 days. And I remember when the crucifixion was happening, I will just weep, I will cry, and I will kind of like feel the pain in my chest, for what Jesus was suffering in that cross. And from that point, when all these issues happen at home, then my dad started being violent and I could hear it. I will pray to Jesus to do something, because sometimes my dad will stop, sometimes I will just intervene. But obviously when you're 7 or 8 years old, there's not much you can do. At some point when I was about 8 years old, I was really fed up, and one day I was alone at home. My mom went to the shop with my brother. I was about 8 or 9 maybe. And I took a knife and I wanted to kill myself. I was literally in the kitchen with the point of the knife between my chest, my tummy, and I was like to go for it. And I literally hear voices in my head telling me like, just do it, get on with it, prove your point. But at the same time, I hear a voice saying, nothing's gonna change. If you do that, everything's gonna carry on the same. Your dad will gonna do the same. Nothing's gonna change, don't do it. And then my mom opened the door in that moment. She came back and I just put the knife away quick, and I just tried to pretend that nothing happened, because I didn't want her to find out. My dad, when I was about 11 years old, he left us. He moved back to Portugal and we stayed in Venezuela. So he left us, and also he took everything what we had, like money-wise, anything of value. So we ended up like, we were living in a rent flat. Fortunately, the owner of the flat was like uncle of my mom, and he didn't obviously force us to pay rent for a while. Then when my dad left, I gotta be honest, we all were very happy about it, because who wants to live like that, However, when I saw my mom waking up early, trying to do breakfast for us, cook lunch, go to work, come back, do the things at home, and I felt like I should help her out. I should like do something. So when I was about 12, I was studying and working at the same time at the age of 12. Actually, in school, about when I was 15 years old, I met this Christian guy called Miguel. And he started talking to me about God and about Jesus. He used to come to my house after school. He used to talk to me about all the things that Jesus did for us, the way to salvation. I remember we went through the book of Revelation, and it was terrifying. And I took Jesus as my Lord and Savior when I was 15. And I really mean it when I took him as Lord and Savior. But in the first week of being a young Christian, I was having dreams to pull me away from the ways of the Lord. And within a week, I was not a Christian anymore. I was just chasing girls, and it's like the enemy just came in to try me to pull me away from the way I was going. At that point, working in a liquor store at 15, studying and working in the liquor store. And I met this guy, which he was a Santero. In America, they're very familiarized. In UK, they don't know what Santero is. He took me under his wing, and he said he's gonna teach me to do witchcraft and all of that kind of stuff. So one day I go to his house, and he kind of like throw away some seashells and to read whatever the spirits are telling him. And I don't know why it didn't click to me on that day, but when he was reading the seashells, he said to me, look, the seashells are telling me that God have put you aside for him and you belong to him. I can teach you, I can do whatever you want me to do, but at some point you're gonna live this way and you're gonna go to God's way, because that's what he's saying here. And however, I didn't want to listen. I just want to carry on with this witchcraft. So I go into doing rituals, like, they kill chickens and they take the blood and they do all kind of rituals. And I realized at that point, being into Santeria and working in a liquor store, I start drinking, start smoking cigarettes, start smoke weed, start chasing girls like never before, one-night standers. I was just going insane. Did have no respect for my mom, which I always had incredible respect for my mom, especially after what I saw she went through, and she was all the time there for us. And that went for, I would say, a couple of years. At some point, I just left this witchcraft, this Santeria, and I actually moved to Portugal. When I moved to Portugal, my dad was there. I saw him. He said hello to me. I did say hello back to him. I didn't feel hate or anything inside. And I thanks the Lord for that, because I didn't know how I'm going to react or what do I feel, because I haven't seen him for like 10 years. We start talking now and again because I was living nearby. However, he passed away, sadly. He had an illness and he died, and we didn't have the chance to actually talk about things. However, I don't hold any hard feelings for him. And at the end of the day, my dad, and what can you do, I came to the UK. I'm coming to the UK because I had a cousin here. So I moved to the UK, and everything was new for me. I'm a guy who comes from South America going into Europe, and I just went even more crazy, So I just went like partying most days of the week, and I used to have 2 girlfriends at the same time, and on top of that, I used to cheat on them. However, in my heart, I always had something about Christ. Now and again, something will pop up, because when my friend back home, Miguel, talked to me about Christ, something was left in there in me, I got divorced twice. I got married twice. I got divorced twice. And obviously, the reasons are obvious. No need to say. But so I met this girl called Roxana, which is my wife today. And she told me one interesting thing. Every time I used to get drunk, I used to talk to her about Jesus. As weird as it sounds, it's, a drunkard talking about Christ. And one day I came from a party, and I went to sleep, and I had this really vivid dream with Christ. And I'm dreaming like I'm like in an open garden, and I felt like my body just being lifted up. And as I go up, I literally see like the map of the UK and the map of Europe, and I keep going up to the point that I actually see the whole globe underneath me. and I'm in open space, literally open space, but so dark open space that if you will drop a paint, a white dot, it will disappear because it was just pure dark. And I hear this voice in my head in the dream saying to me, you know the truth and you don't follow me. And I look up, and when I look up, it was Christ with his hands trying to reach me. And I just weep through my dream. I weep all the time that I was asleep. I just weep so much that when I wake up, the pillow was covered in water. My partner, Roxana, told me, look, you just cry the whole time.
Wow.
So after that, I carry on the same life, but with the difference that every time I will do something, I will feel guilt in me. So I start talking to a friend of mine. She lives in Florida now, and she became a Christian. I used to talk to her in those times. So I used to go clubbing, partying, do whatever I was doing. And then on the way home, I used to call her because of the different times. Florida was like midnight, here was 5 a.m. So I used to talk to her and tell her things. And when I told her about the dream, she said, oh, you are the one in my dreams, because she saw me in her, she saw a baby getting baptized. So it was like a new Christian coming out, a newborn. And then she saw, okay, that must be you. I feel in the spirit that it's you. So I keep talking to her, but I didn't want to let go that life of sin, because unfortunately sin can be very enjoyable, unfortunately. And one day I'm at home, and my daughter got sick. She was having vomit and diarrhea for like 4 days. But when you're 1 year old, that is quite serious because you can die.
Yeah.
So 4 days later, nothing happened. I go to the GP, which is the doctors here, talk to him, and he just say, okay, if she's drinking water, keep feeding her water and let's see how it goes. But I was not happy with that answer, I wanted something to be done about it. And after 7 days, she lost like 1 kilo out of 9 kilos. She was very pale. And on that day, for the first time, I was in my room, and I'm in bed, closed my eyes, the lights were off. My wife was in bed as well. It's that point, and she's not asleep, I'm not asleep, but we were just about to sleep. In my mind, I say, well, God, I had nobody else who was. The doctor cannot help me. Can you help me? And I hear Jesus' voice. I recognize his voice. And that voice says, it came from inside of me. And he said to me, as from now on, all illness are going to go. And I open my eyes and I look at my partner. I see Roxana. I say, look, I just hear this voice saying that from now on, all illness are going to go.
Yeah. Was this like an actual audible voice, or was just something you kind of heard inside
Inside.
of you?
It came from inside of me. And she looked at me and she said, okay. Her eyes told me the whole thing, like, he's going insane, this guy. And I said, okay. We went to sleep, wake up in the morning, and first thing in the morning, check on her, and she was healed. She didn't have anything. Even the color of the face came back. She was happy, she was playing, And at that point, I said to myself, well, I need to take this serious. Because at that point, I realized in my heart that if I don't take Jesus serious, he'd be so merciful to me. He gave me a dream. And 2 years later, I carry on sing for 2 years. And he talks to me, he healed my daughter. If I not do something about it, because I know the truth, I'm going to end up in a place that I don't want to be. And I had that fear inside, but with love as well. It was not just fear, because sometimes fear is your friend and not your enemy, because sometimes fear pushes you to the right place,
Right.
I started looking for churches, and I was terrified. I was terrified to walk into a church. So
Why were you terrified?
I don't know. I was nervous. I don't know. It was just, I don't know why I was terrified. I said, okay, let's go. I need to go, because one of the problems I had as well was I felt like I have to stop sinning to go and meet Christ without realizing that you come with the whole baggage, come with your bag full of the things you have in your bag, and once you in there with him, then he will take one at a time.
Right.
And I realized that, and I know that it was him who put it in my head, because I didn't know anything about the Bible or Christ, and this thing on my head, it was him. So I found a church. Walking to the church, I think I was shaking from the night before because I went party. So I go in the church, and I didn't really feel like it's the right church, and I decided to look for another one. So I go to a different church, walk in, and I actually kind of like felt the presence of God around you, when you're worshiping and, trying to hold your tears back because you don't want to cry, because you don't want people see you crying. I started going to church, and I went to church for like 3 weeks before one day I was at home one day, I went to pray, my daughter was asleep. And as I go to pray, I go to the kitchen because the room was full of mold, and we were like cleaning the room. So I go to pray to the kitchen, and I forgot the Bible, and I thought, I'm gonna get the Bible and read a verse before I start praying, So I get the Bible, a Bible that, by the way, my friend Miguel gave it to me when he was 15 years old.
Wow.
And he was with me for 22 years. And he's been with me. I went to Colombia, to Curacao, I went to Portugal, I went to England, and the Bible always followed me for some reason. As I go to the kitchen, I say, God, do you want me to read something for you? Something that you really like, your favorite verse. And then he said to me, read Psalms 33. But he said with an intensity that the walls of the room shake, and I have to bolt down because I could, like my senses couldn't hold it. The voice was powerful. It was full of authority, like pure authority, but with love. Then it's hard. It was hard for me to understand how you can have so much authority and love together in the same voice. And I opened my eyes and I said, wait, no. This is too much. It cannot be. I mean, the wall's shaking. And I say, well, God, if that is you, and I'm not going insane, I'm going to let the Bible open, and it's going to come out in Psalms 33, just like you ask. And I let it open, and the Bible just opened, Psalms 33, and I just go on my knees, cry like a baby, obviously read Psalms 33, and it was just overwhelming. I have no words to describe. And I knew that there is someone up there looking at me. I finished praying, reading, crying, all what happening there. And I hear this voice from inside of me telling me, read Psalms 24. And I was over the moon because all of these things were happening at the same time, and the voice comes with love because you feel that love. And I open, I read, and when I finished read, I went to check on my daughter, because she was asleep. And as I approached her, because we had the mattress on the floor, because we were cleaning the room, as I approached her, something came into me, and I just faint on the bed, on the mattress. And when I'm in the mattress, I'm trying to fight this thing, because I'm trying to be conscious. And as I try to be conscious, I manage kind of open my eye a little bit, and I realize I'm speaking a different language, which, as weird as it sounds, my head, my ear couldn't understand what my mouth was saying, but my heart knew what my mouth was saying. So literally, my heart understood, and the Holy Spirit in me is praying to God the Father to clean me and break the chains that I have. That's what I understood. And then I gone again. And I don't know how long it passed. I think it passed about 10 minutes, 15 minutes in there. And when I stand up, something in me have changed. Something in me changed. Even my wife, my girlfriend at that time, but I got married once I became a born-again Christian. My wife came and she saw me, she said, you're all right, you look different today. I mean, something changed? What happened? And I told her, but she didn't believe me. After that point, I can really say that, things went away from me, like alcohol, just I didn't feel like to drink anymore. Going to parties, women's, all of that just start go away. I was still smoking, but then I managed to stop 6 months later with a bit of help from God as well. Something that happened in that period that I didn't say, and I think is quite important, is that while all of these things were happening in the house, demons were appearing in the house, not to me, but to my wife. And she used to wake up in the middle of the night with a scream, and she literally will open the eyes, and this thing will be in front of her, staring at her. And that literally will happen like 3 times in a night. But the moment she can start coming to church with me, that stopped.
Wow.
Everything stopped. That is how I became a Christian.
Wow. How long has it been now since you've been now on this new life with Jesus?
I'm gonna be 4 years in April. So, yeah. But yeah, the worst thing is people don't realize that they have to bring the package with them.
Yeah.
And I want to repeat it because sometimes you feel like you have to be perfect just to walk into a church and to talk to God, but no, you don't have to. He wants you the way you are, and then he will look after things for you. He will get rid of things.
Yeah. You mentioned at some point that you started to look for a church.
Yeah.
What did God do in that area? We obviously know how important community is, and it seemed like God was putting different people throughout your life that would continue to speak to you about God, whether you received it or not, right? There were seeds that were being planted. What did God do in that area when it came to community and surrounding you with other people that were experiencing the same things?
So a friend of mine started coming to church with me, to the same church. And we came to this church with, there is Pastor Steve, who is an ex-motorbiker. And he kind of like came to Christ very similar to the way I came. And that give you like a reference point, that give you like a bit of something in common. And one thing that I remember in that church is when I went to that church, it was this guy, he was in a wheelchair. He was going through a tumor in the brain. And within 3 weeks, he was walking.
Wow.
And he just recovered from the tumor in the brain, which they say to him he will not recover.
Wow.
So
what did that do to you? Like when you think back and you remember seeing that, what did that do?
I'm just amazed, I'm just amazed with what God does, God, we make God this size when you cannot measure God. You want to measure God by the faith that you have. You get my point? The bigger your faith, the bigger God is going to be for you.
Yeah. Tony, how is your relationship with your parents today? You mentioned that obviously with your dad it was a little bit hard, and at some point it's because you were in this place of darkness, you also kind of distanced yourself from your mother. Now walking with Jesus, what is that relationship like today?
Good. I mean, I love my mom to bits. She's gonna marry soon this summer, and I'm gonna be there. I mean, I talk to my mom every week. I mean, we texting WhatsApp. We even have a group of family that we just text, my brother, my sister, my mom. I mean, Jesus just restored my whole life, Before Jesus, I had nobody but myself. With Jesus, I have a wife now, which I love. I got my daughter, and I got little Abraham, which he born when I was a Christian, and it's a joy. It's just a joy. It's like, I don't know how to explain.
Yeah, Tony, who is Jesus to you?
Jesus, true love. Jesus is just true love. He created me. He took me from the mud, and I met true love the day I met him. I mean, there's nothing else I can say. It's just true love.
Yeah. Tony, for people who come from similar backgrounds when it came to, experiencing moments with God, but then just going out into the world and being in love with the temporary happiness that comes with sin, right? What can you say to that person that's kind of in that cycle right now, that has experienced God, but is still caught up in the things of the world? For that person that's watching your testimony right now, what's an encouragement that you can give them?
Whatever you do, try always to just go to church is very important. I know that the most important thing is to have a relationship with Christ, but going to church is very important because they can guide you, they can help you. I know over the years, because I have seen Christianity over the years, and some Christians can be very finger-pointed, but you cannot rule yourself by what those people is accusing you of. But you have to look into the Bible and see what God is saying, not what people are saying.
Yeah.
So always try to look for God, ask Him for help, because if you are very sincere in your heart, He will definitely help you. And remember that we all sinners, we all commit sin, and there is no a single saint. We are saints because of the blood of Christ. So if you are lost, just come to Christ. Come to Christ. He will take the little bag of your bag.
Tony, any last words for people who are watching your testimony right now?
Well, I encourage everybody to grow the relationship with Christ, because He even say in the Bible that they will say, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name? Did we not cure the demon possessed in your name? And He say, depart from me because I never knew you. So just try to make sure that He really knows you. So spend that extra time in the bedroom, lock your door away, and just talk to Him just about anything,